Hi, I'm Jekuso, and I'm about to tell you about the worst financial decision that a toy company has ever made that somehow led to the greatest, most life-changing adventure of my entire childhood. So sit down, buckle up, because I'm about to tell you the story of Baku-Con. Do you fear criminals? Well, so do I. That's why I have Surfshark VPN, which encrypts all of the data sent from my devices to the internet, as well as swapping out the real location of my device with a virtual one, making it so I can basically virtually travel to different places in the world. Unsecured public Wi-Fi is well known as a goldmine for hackers and identity thieves and anyone who wants to get their grubby little fingers in your grubby little business. And Surfshark's clean web features block malware, phishing attempts, malicious ads, trackers, and more, allowing you to browse the web cleanly and safely. But aside from cybersecurity features, Surfshark is also useful for fun reasons. Because you can make it look like your devices are in different locations with the VPN, you can access streaming services and entire internet portfolios from other countries, bypassing anything that's supposed to be locked based on what country you're in. I've managed to use VPNs to find a whole bunch of crazy tokusatsu stuff on Netflix by making it look like my device is in Japan. All my homies hate censorship, so bypass censorship with Surfshark VPN. Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk to try it out. And when you use my code, you get 3 extra months of Surfshark VPN completely free. There's a link in my description, so check it out to try Surfshark VPN, 30 days, money-back guarantee, 3 extra months for free when you use my code. Thanks Surfshark for sponsoring the video, and it's on to the story. 2009, Bakugan was riding high. Spin Master's big brand, as big as anything has ever been, at least as far as small boy children are concerned. Spin Master decides, well, we've got a toy line with a little card game attached. Let's try to get this card game big. Let's put a bunch of stuff in a van, tour it around the country at Toys R Us to get kids thinking. It's called the Bakugan Ultimate Battle Tour. I never went, but all of this was in place to set up Baku-Con, to get kids ready for Baku-Con, Spin Master's big nationwide convention tournament thing meant to promote Bakugan and start a proper actual play scene. In fact, it was a television advertisement on Cartoon Network that tipped me off to what was going on. Popped up on the TV and was like, hey, in Dallas, Texas, we're having a Bakugan thing where you can come and you can play and compete. It seemed fun, but I was just getting into Bakugan and I had no real idea how I was going to tell my parents about this. At this point, my parents barely knew anything about my Bakugan interest. Pretty much no adults around this time had any idea what Bakugan was, or how it worked, or what the point of it all was. And none of this was helped by the fact that I had never actually bought a Bakugan from a store. I got my entire collection from just trading with other kids in the neighborhood. I traded away Lego guys, cool rocks that I found, whatever I could to get more Bakugan into my possession. But I was in a tough position because my father was a frugal, hardworking, very busy, very stressed out man. He worked as a graphic designer for a toy company at this time. I'm not gonna name names, but they held conventions all around the United States. So we would often get to travel for these conventions, but he was always working, so he hardly ever got a day of vacation to himself. My father and I were not distant, but we were not particularly close at this point in time. With how busy and how stressed he was, mostly he would come home and just try to relax, and I kind of tried not to bother him. But I had to get his permission. I had to get him to take me. Find a little advertisement online that says, free admission. The whole tournament is free. If you show up, you get to compete. Armed with that, I went to him. He was very confused, but when I brought it up, he agreed to take me. So, thus began my training arc. I had never before played the Bakugan game up to that point. I had only played up versions that me and my brother had made up, so I had to learn from scratch. I had to get cards, I had to get Bakugan, I had to teach all of the other kids in my neighborhood how to play correctly so that I could practice against them and, find some form of superiority against all of the other children, and I did. In Dallas, we end up in a buried convention center. They had these little signs set up throughout the parking garage in the convention center, just pointing you one way to another until we were buried deep within like a non-Euclidean maze of concrete and stone. And yet, inside what was practically a warehouse was Bakugan Wonderland. They had Bakugan skee-ball, Bakugan tables, Bakugan chairs, and about 1,000 places for children to set up and play games against one another. And about 100 people showed up. Maybe a little bit more throughout the day, but hardly any more than that. I'd been to some pretty big conventions. It was mostly just a tournament in a spooky warehouse, with just the loudest freaking, like, mid-2000s techno music blasting the entire time. I get set up for the tournament. My brother Connor goes out to just, like, trade cards with Kodak and destroy small children in the side games. While my dad, who knows how conventions work, is walking around this entire experience like, where'd they get the money for this? This is free. Why is this free? There's no news crews here. Why is this free? The tournament is a piece of cake. It's like 8 different color flights with about, like, 12 kids each. None of the children knew what they were doing. I was battling children like 5 years younger than me, practically, and I was only 12 at the time. For the most part, it was just a bunch of random kids who had managed to convince their parents similarly to bring them here, come in with just like a little handful of Bakugan and random cards, missing every single roll, whereas I had been like the entire month prior just like drilling myself with roll after roll after roll. And I was like doing stuff, the kids were calling over the judges, and the judges were coming over like, yup, and checking their clipboards, and we're like, yeah, that's a legal move. I think he won. Cake. The biggest challenge, truly, was not getting distracted by the blasting techno music and Battlemaster Ray, an actor that Spin Master hired to stand up on stage and, like, MC and, like, commentate the tournament and mostly just repeat the rules of the game over and over and over again while me and a bunch of other little toddlers are playing the game actively.
Some of these cards, the way that they're played, it's not so black and white. There can be some gray areas in there. When you read through some of the rules on the cards, there's a different interpretation from player A and a different interpretation from player B. And we're basically like the Supreme Court up here. We make the final determination of how the card is supposed to.
You're gonna need 3 gate cards and 3 ability cards and 3 Bakugan. You're gonna need 1 silver gate card, 1 gold gate card, 1 bronze gate card, 1 ability card that's green, 1 that's red, and 1 that's blue. And you're gonna roll your Bakugan, alright? This is awesome, we're having a great time. Meanwhile, over in the side games away from the tournament, they're like giving away frickin' televisions, MP3 players, iPods, and my dad the whole time is over in the corner like, where are they getting the money for this? Yada yada yada, I win the blue flight and move on to the semifinals, losing the semifinals pretty early. I'm a little bit sad about it because I don't get to play anymore, but whatever, that's fine. I'm not bent out of shape about it until they hand me a little slip of paper, right? A little certificate of victory or whatever, and tell me that in a few months, early 2010, they're going to fly me and my dad out to New York City, all expenses paid. I didn't win. It's just because I was like the winner of the blue flight, top 8. But like, that's still 8 kids behind whoever wins the finals. That shouldn't mean I get to go to the national tournament in New York, but it did. A few months later, I am flying out to New York with my father. Free plane tickets, free shuttle buses full of other Bakugan kids, a hotel room that overlooks Times Square, and a $200 stipend for meals and entertainment. It was ridiculous. It didn't make any sense. It, again, felt like a trap. It felt like I was going to be whisked away into the fairy realm, losing my identity and succumbing to joy until I dance myself to death. Meanwhile, all I wanted out of my little New York trip was a hot dog from a New York hot dog cart. That shows you where my aspirations were as a child. The finals event itself is in like a creepy back alley just off of Times Square, like some old nightclub venue that was just packed out with children and parents and Bakugan product and Battlemaster Ray up on the stage. You're gonna need 3 gate cards, 1 gold, 1 silver, 1 bronze, 3 ability cards. New product is being revealed. Gundalian Invaders gets announced. Bakugan Dimensions gets announced. During the tournament, there were dads on the sidelines, leaned over the railing like, Billy Joe, play the red card! Play the red card, Billy Joe! No, Billy Joe! Sports dads. Just the most intensive sports dads who happened to spawn these little nerd kids who were playing with paper and marbles. Meanwhile, my dad is over sleeping in a very comfy nightclub chair while the music is still... But you know what isn't there? You know what's been missing this entire time? News crews, advertisers, the media, a frickin' film crew, anything. The point of this whole event, to bring people in for free, to hold a big national prestigious tournament in New York City. The only possible benefit would be advertising, promoting your toy line. And yet it was only promoting Bakugan to young children who were already into Bakugan. The free admission was very convenient for me, but they didn't get anything out of it, despite spending millions of dollars on plane tickets and flat screen TVs and hotel rooms and rent on all of these different venues across the world. It doesn't make any sense. It was not smart. Back to the competition, I dropped the ball very early on in like the first round or whatever. I barely got any wins. I was out pretty early. This is not a story about how I triumphed over all odds from someone who had never played up to the highest ranks. No, the guy who won, Christopher Ruff, he was like sort of a young teenager, so yeah, he wasn't missing any shots. He won. The second place winner, a Pyrus brawler named Daniel, lost to Christopher Ruff, but eventually became a YouTuber named Failboat. To me, it feels like the flop that was Baku-Con, the financial disaster that was Baku-Con. While it didn't immediately kill the brand, it probably really kneecapped Spin Master's faith in Bakugan as a tournament-worthy game. Because they thought it had to be a big, huge thing, rather than just something they set up with comic book shops and stuff like that. But still, that's not really what this story is about. And if it's not about me triumphing over terrible odds or Spin Master's ultimate downfall, what is the story about? This is a story about how a toy company's nonsensical series of financial investments led, improbably, to this. I got to have 3 full nights in New York City with my father. No work, no obligation, no stress. We saw the Statue of Liberty. We walked past the Ed Sullivan Theater. We went to the big Toys R Us in Times Square before it closed. We walked around till my tiny little feet were sore. We ate a black and white cookie. Got the very best Chinese restaurant fortune of all time. And I got to eat my hot dog after spotting a hot dog cart from the window of our Times Square hotel room. Even though during the tournament my dad wasn't hovering over the sidelines, shouting at me and telling me what cards to play, it was the most time I had ever gotten to spend with my dad. It was the first time we'd ever traveled together alone, and we experienced something together in all its extravagance and absurdity that I'm never going to get with anyone else, and that no one else is ever fully going to get. My relationship with my dad was different after that. Things were better, and they still are. And that's one of my favorite memories. Thank you for listening to my story. This is Jet Kuso, and I'll see you next time. Huh! If you found all of the archival Baku-Con footage in this video interesting, you can thank my dad for that, for being a 2009 dad with a camcorder doing the hard work. A lot of that footage, because there is actually very little footage of Baku-Con on the internet, I'm going to be uploading a whole bunch of that footage, putting it in a playlist, and then linking to it on my Patreon account. So go to patreon.com/JetKuso if you want to look and see all of this, like, random old footage of me battling young children as a young child. A lot of it is actually really, really fun, and I didn't get to use most of it, but go there, check that out. It should be fun. And while I'm here, thank you to my Diamond patrons, Immortal Blank, and new Diamond patron, LucidLana. Heck yeah. Titan patrons, SheVitus, Sierra107, GUSANO, Rāzu Ryan, plecopleco, Roman Lewandowski, and Banana Jones, and my hyper patrons Gavin Greenlee, David, Trouble, DuskAnthro, Mudorios, and no longer LucidLana because she's a freaking Diamond patron now. That's so cool. And thank you to all my base patrons as well for supporting, and thank you very much for watching.